Okay.
So this is my little sibling, Jay. How do you identify Jay?
Okay, don't ask me that. I don't know.
I know I do the same thing. I'm like, that's situational. Okay. Anyway, I might venture a guess that we are both genderqueer,
Yes.
AFAB, trans masculine experience in the world. How about that?
Yeah.
So
it changes.
Indeed that. So trans siblings, hi. We were at a cafe today and we had Yellowjackets that wanted to come hang out with us. And Jay was having such visceral physical reactions. And I made a comment about, oh, well, I did months of work learning to be with Yellowjackets because of our traumas as a child. At which point they were like, what traumas? Because they were so young, they wouldn't have remembered, of course. But I actually wrote a story and I did a huge ritual with 2 loved ones, and I have a giant tattoo all about Yellowjackets and this trauma that we share
know about
that they didn't know we shared. So I wanted to read that story to them, and I'm going to share that experience. We are going to share that experience with y'all because Jay hasn't heard this story about some portion of why they have such a visceral reaction to Yellowjackets, most likely. So y'all get to experience the story. I've never shared my writing publicly, so be gentle. Also, you don't have to be. It's fine. I'm a grown-ass adult. But that would be nice. Anyway, ask for what you want. So I'm...
Like, you're not allowed to be needy.
Oh, I love the protectiveness. Yay. That's awesome. Sibling care. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to read the story, and then Jay and I are going to talk about their experience of hearing about their trauma that they had as a young child that they didn't know that they had or remembered that they had. That lives very deeply in me, is very alive for me. So, learning to love Yellowjackets. Activation warning for parental loss and anger and protective elder sibling feelings, plus a description of swarming Yellowjackets. I hope that you will come on a journey with me through this storytelling. A journey of noticing your body and its reactions to my telling. As an opportunity for somatic exploration, I enthusiastically invite you to engage with what comes up and express it in that moment. You can laugh out loud. You can stomp your foot. You can suck or gnash your teeth. You can sigh dramatically. You can clasp your pearls. You can tear your clothes. You could shiver or you could freeze. As we travel together, I'll offer you prompts and moments of silence to check in with your body, heart, and mind. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are y'all ready? In the footsteps of my favorite bibliophile, LeVar Burton, feel free to join me in a breath. And off we go. I had painstakingly carved out a morning routine for myself. Lovingly nurtured those habits, cultivated a sense of grounding and comfort that formed the foundation of my day with tranquility and self-care. But that was being disrupted, and I was pissed about it. The first COVID winter found me secluded and restless as fuck. Many can relate. I impatiently waited for the snow to melt off so I could access my rooftop, my outdoor living room of solitude and safety within the city. Bundled up in layer upon layer of wool and shivering in my lawn chair up there, I desperately tried to let my skin drink up a few rays of the winter sun. I daydreamed about more of that warmth on my bare skin. I fantasized gulping down iced tea after a full day in the garden, the cool liquid soothing my parched throat and my bare feet soaking in the relief of cool water. Yet, the oncoming spring had never felt so slow to come on. Especially during lockdown summers, my rooftop was my urban sanctuary above the treetops and buildings, swaddled in greenery and creature comforts, basking in the intensity of heat we experience on the island of Jojage. As soon as it was warm enough to not be shivering too much in the dawn light, I would gather my supplies and head to the seclusion of my roof. I slowly settled into myself with the smooth bitterness of earthy coffee, gentle yoga to awaken my body from stiffness and pain, meditation and moments of gratitude shared with loved ones. Pause. What do you notice in your body, heart, and mind? What I didn't know was that I would spend a better part of that second COVID summer exploring a trauma response in my body and learning how to tend to it. I would spend months focused on gently assuaging and shifting the capacity of my nervous system. I did this self-care work not alone, but with the support of countless Yellowjackets. Oh yeah, so helpful. Their constant presence provided my contempt and anger and prompted me to acknowledge a fear response in my body. They would appear and my heart would begin to race, my breath would catch, and suddenly I was flooded with heat and panic. I would run back into my house once there were more than 4 of them that had wandered over to check out what I was up to. Rude little fucks. That response caught my attention. I'm not usually so easily activated, so I paused to consider, and I judged that I was overly fearful and pissed at them for intruding upon my serenity. Pause. What do you notice now? What has shifted in your body, heart, and mind? What was my sadness? It was the loss of the peaceful space I wanted to take up. And where did my fear come from? Sitting with this question throughout the summer, I came to a very soft-bellied and hard-to-look-at memory from my childhood. I also wondered, could I choose to do something different? This question excited me because of my work with somatic noticing and the polyvagal theory. I saw an opportunity for practice. I knew that first, I had to name where I did and did not have the power to renegotiate this relational dynamic. I could not control how they showed up, but I could control the ways I was showing up. I decided to teach my body how to relate to them differently, using the access I have to my nervous system, rather than in the reactionary ways that was becoming habituated in my body after a traumatic encounter with these insects. I'm going to recount that story for you now, and I invite you to notice your breath, your heart rate, any urges that come up, postural shifts and tensions. You might notice the vibe you feel or images, have memories or assumptions that pop forward. Maybe you'll notice sounds or colors, other sensations, feelings coming up. Just let them pass by. Here we go. I was a shy, quiet, 7-year-old scrawny tomboy with skint knees, a gigantic full-mouth dental retainer, and broad bottle cap glasses. I spent much of my time hiding behind my hair or a book, trying not to be noticed nor ruffle any feathers. My father was stressed to the max. My baby sibling had finally come home after spending their first year away, and I wanted nothing more than to be a good girl for them both. This particular day, I lost that fucking retainer. I was so scared, knowing my father would roar, his reddened face inches from my own before I received further punishment. I explained to my babysitter that I had surely thrown it away with my lunch, and could she please take me back to the school so I could dive through the dumpster? My little sibling belted into the stroller. We walked back to the school to get the retainer. Whew. After hours of combing through bags of trash and lunch castings, I was elated to have found it. There was my lunch castings and no fucking retainer. I was crushed. And once again, overcome with the fear of my father's reaction. I yelled out as tears streamed down my face, kicking the side of the dumpster with my foot. And suddenly, I was overwhelmed by the loss of silence. A buzzing everywhere before suddenly my body was being pelted repeatedly. A roaring colony of yellowjackets engulfing me. As the stinging set in and I was screaming, my babysitter scooped me up and ran away. Pause. What do you notice in your body, heart, and mind now? My sweet little sibling was locked in their stroller, a target left for these creatures. The babysitter ran back, but they had taken most of the Yellowjackets' protective blows already. Their tiny, year-old body was riddled with stingers, red and puffy. I would have to explain to my father both how I lost my retainer, as well as my siblings' suffering. Only a year after we had lost our mother, and already I had failed at the single task he had given me, to always protect and care for this little sibling. Pause. What do you notice in your body, heart, and mind? I learned a few lessons through this experience. One is that yellowjackets are scary as fuck and running is the best option. I have been in multiple swarms since. This is my reaction now. Another is that misplacing things can have torturous consequences. By the way, the next morning I found my retainer safely sitting inside my desk. Everything has a home. Some questions for you to ponder. When just one stinging insect is buzzing nearby you, what happens in your body? Just one. When it lands next to your hand as you're moving about, knowing you might accidentally collide, what happens in your body? When several start to crowd onto your body, curious, exploring your hair, sweat, and skin, what happens in your body? When they crawl in between your glasses and your face, they love to do that to me. What happens in your body? Let's go back to my rooftop. Doesn't seem safe, but we're doing it anyway. Writing and slurping up the morning sun, minding my own damn business, and it begins. One buzzes around me a few times, and then alights upon my paper. I wait, take a breath, sip my coffee. Another at my hair and ear. I pause. I've done some of this work in the past, and I'd learned that speaking to them helped me stay at least a bit calm. Oh, no. Whoa, babe, too close. Hey, not my face. Why do you have to touch me? Consent, motherfucker. Woo, then more wonder over. Landing on my precious caffeine. That's it, too far, my nectar. In a huff, I bolt and retreat into my home to stare out of the window in rage. Pause. What do you notice in your body, heart, and mind? I got tired of feeling as though I was being bullied. So I turned to my somatic and mindfulness practices for support. Step 1, notice. What's going on in my body, heart, and mind? I noticed that after seeing one zipping around me, my shoulders began to cave in, my body retracted, and my breath shortened. Once two or more were dive bombing me, my sympathetic nervous system would kick in, heat rising quickly from my abdomen and up the back of my arms, tightening at the bottom of my throat. My diaphragm clenched and my breath would falter. As more came close or landed on me, the urge to run turned into a need as cortisol would flood my system. I noticed that my body was panicking even as I told myself that everything was fine, to stay calm, that they weren't going to hurt me. Didn't help. Step 2. Get curious about the stories that I hold and urges that appear. At first, not remembering the childhood memory until later in the summer, I got curious about what was this response making me miss out on. There was a loss of peace in my morning routine. I was curious about the specifics of that loss and noticed that as soon as I would see one yellow jacket, I began scanning for others out of the corner of my eye. And this meant I would lose attention to my writing. And let me tell you, my practice of writing, while still being pre-medicated, pre-caffeinated, was fucking a hard-won habit. I realized that I felt extremely protective of that morning commitment. Step 3. Name what I want to happen in those moments, actually. Well, my body was flooding me, and I wanted to not feel flooded. My mind was angry because it was heartbroken about this loss. My physiological responses were overriding my access to what I wanted, that peaceful morning. Step 4. What the fuck am I going to do about this? Run away? Be angry? Get sad? These were not getting me any closer to what I wanted. So I set an intention to find peace with these little creatures, to access the pleasures I sought in the morning routine and the state of calm I wished for my body. Pause. What do you now notice in your body, heart, and mind? I used these 4 steps over and over again throughout the summer, always with different responses, iterating through based on what I noticed, shifting my curiosity around, staying focused on what I wanted, and evolving what I was doing per what came up. Step 1, notice. I began to focus on just my breath and let the rest of my system go about its protective responses. I chose breath because it's an access route to my autonomic nervous system that I have a lot of practice using. Could I be still and take a couple of calming breaths? What would happen? Would that calm my overreactive nervous system? No. I ran back into the house after 5 Yellowjackets crowded around me. But with practice, over time, I noticed that it took just a tiny bit longer before I bolted. Eventually, those purposeful, ragged, and sometimes forced breaths became a tad more even and easier to access. Everything else kept going berserk. There was the heat and there was the panic, and eventually it would end in flight mode. But after a few weeks, I was able to stay still increasingly longer, thanks to my breath. Step 2, get curious. I wondered, what are they sensing? What it might be like for them to land on my new luscious leg hair. What new world might that be for them? What smell of mine was garnering their attention? I added inquiry to my breath practice, focusing on their beingness, their aliveness, cultivating compassion for their curiosity. With these practices, I was able to remain much longer with them around me. I began to sense that the heat in my body didn't rise quite as quickly as it used to, even though it did. And with a few more weeks of practice, that heat eventually did not crawl all the way up my body. It would blossom, but not spread. I created a story that when they smelled my adrenaline and my fear, they would call their friends over to say, "Oh no, this one is scared. Come, hold them." And the story helped me maintain my compassion for them. Step 3, what do I want? Did I want them to touch my body? Did I want to get used to the sensation of them walking on me? What is my obligation of service to these beings? I sat with these questions and more, giving myself clarity and certainty in my intentions with this work. And by about halfway through the summer, I could remain with them until they began to land on me, walking across my hand, crawling towards my shirt sleeve, and even walking to the face side of my glasses. Oh, fuck no, Red. Back indoors I would go. Cool. So I knew my limits. What now? Step 4. What am I doing about it? I decided to try closing my eyes while focusing on my breath and imagining the sensations of their bodies against mine as someone tickling me with a flower or a feather. Well, that little trick bought me barely a second more. But with practice, I eked out 2 seconds more, and then still longer. Pause. What do you notice in your body, heart, and mind? I kept at this process of mindful iterations through these 3 stages throughout the summer, or 4 stages throughout the summer, every damned morning. Instead of fighting or fleeing, I titrated through ad hoc exposure therapy aided by somatic and mindfulness practices. Over 5 months, I learned to stay with my body's troubled responses, and I watched my mind's capacity build to stay online with the activation as it oh so slowly began to loosen. And by the end of the summer, I was able to comfortably coax them onto my hand when they got stuck in my home and gently carry them outside. I still chat with them, but now it's sweet and cajoling. I laugh with delight and, yes, still a tinge of heat in my abdomen when they tickle my skin. I'm overjoyed to be in harmony with them, far more than I previously felt was even possible. And as winter melts away each year, I look forward to continuing this peaceable practice. I know that my nervous system will have slid back into my trauma response patterns to some degree, so I begin by noticing how activated I am in response and in comparison to when my flying friends and I parted in the fall. I get curious about new ways to approach this self-care work, what responses need to be tended to, and how much easier the work is for me to approach now. I know that I want to be in closer connection, but not increased proximity. I'm going to try feeding them and make an offering to put on the other side of the deck once in a while, so I can appreciate their presence without the constant tickles. Pause. What do you notice in your body, heart, and mind? Thanks for journeying with me. So, to recap from the beginning, this is my little sibling, Jay, who didn't remember this trauma that we shared, that I forgot that they wouldn't know because they were so young. And when I wrote this story, when I did this ritual, when I got this tattoo, it didn't dawn on me that of course they wouldn't remember. I always think everybody knows what I know. You know I do.
I know you do.
I do.
It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
So, I thought it would be cool to read this story, and they offered to allow themselves to be subjected to the story of their own trauma on camera. Thanks for being here, y'all. And as 2 trans siblings who have been through a lot of traumas together and separately, I thought it would be really cool to now be able to have a bit of a discussion about what that was like. So, if you have questions, you're welcome to pop them in the chat. I will try to see them. I may or may not. But I'd like to start with, what did you notice?
I have been itching since you started the story.
Like your body?
Physically, yes, everything itches.
Everything. Oh,
I've been itching like throughout the whole thing. I've been trying to do it very discreetly, but like especially as you keep trying to like bring the focus back into our bodies, I'm like, no, I don't want it. I'm itching so much. Stop. Now I found a new place to itch.
Oh no. Yeah.
And like it just like kind of got progressively worse.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. Sorry for that.
No,
I'm glad you're here for it.
Yeah, no, I wonder how much of that is like maybe body memory of like probably the itching I experienced for months afterwards.
It was intense, y'all. It was intense. We did not even try to count. Like the other swarms I've been in since then, I was able to count the stings. Like there were a lot, and also like this was you were riddled. We were both riddled, but you were very riddled. Yeah.
I mean, I've always been scared of bees. Like that's something that's definitely been something I've acknowledged about it, right? Like I remember going to the fair back as a kid, and like fucking fair hornets are horrible. They're all in your food and on your face and on your body, and they sting you. And I hate going to the fair because they're Yellowjackets there.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I really related to any story as a child where a young kid lost their parent, because that had happened to me. And my girl came out at a time where I was seeking connection and understanding and not having anybody to talk to or know how to communicate what was going on with me. And the little girl in that story has lost her mother, but also Gully McCulkin dies from bee stings in that movie.
What movie is this?
My Girl. It's called My Girl.
I don't think I've seen that.
Maybe
one.
don't.
I don't watch
no
movies
need,
with dead
but
cats. I don't do that.
I know. Well, yeah. So, what else did you notice?
I had such a visual, like physical reaction when you were talking about our father's rage.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't. Well, I did say.
Yeah, I knew it.
Parent anger, but
yeah, no, it gave me so many solid memories of that, and because I oftentimes try to downplay it in my head, and I'm like, no, the times that I remember him getting mad, he was mad.
It was rage. It was untended rage. Yeah, for sure.
It's his rage is what I try to make sure I control my own anger.
Yeah, I get that.
Because I know I developed our father's anger. I know it.
And, well, we didn't have any other modeling.
Yeah.
So,
and so I have memories of how his rage would affect me. And I'm like, I don't want people around me having that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you took a lot more of the brunt force of his rage than I did.
Oh, yeah. No, he would get in my face and scream. Oh, he would scream.
I know.
Yeah. But you're mentioning specifically around losing something. I lost everything as a kid.
I know you did. Oh yeah, you misplaced everything. Like I said, I learned from that retainer. Everything has a fucking home.
The problem is what happens when you forget where your home is.
Well, that's true.
I'd be like, I did find a home for it. It's a really good home. I don't remember.
I didn't put it on the map.
Like it's the same home every time. I just forgot what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would remember he would get so mad at me when I'd lose things, and I felt it in my body when you were talking about your fear of him coming home and finding that you'd lost.
That I lost something. I know.
Something that was expensive, and as a single parent, right?
Yeah. A single parent with 2 daughters, like he was really fucking stretched then, and like it was a big deal to have that retainer, and I knew it, and I was scared out of my mind. So at what I would have been 6 or 7.
Yeah, and like. Most children would not have that type of reaction to,
You would hope.
Right? But like, I definitely remember being terrified of having to explain to him how I've lost something that we now have to pay for.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. Do you, have you had other instances with hornets or bees or yellowjackets?
Yeah, I have a really solid memory of when I was probably around the age that you were. And I was in the car and I was in my little Auburn cheerleading costume.
I remember that.
And a bee had gotten up under my skirt.
Oh shit.
And I put my hand down and it had stung me. And I didn't know what was going on. And there was there must have been more than one because it was a solid.
Yeah.
So I remember,
hornets can sting multiple times.
Yeah. So I remember that one. And I remember I kind of did get swarmed a second time. Nothing like what you've described, but I did get swarmed. I was at summer camp.
Oh.
Yeah, it was one of the summer camps that they sent me to, and I was down in the creek with another friend because it was hot, and I'd grown up in the country. I was used to creeks. I was like, there are no snakes in this one. This is a good place to be.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Right? Like, this is very exciting.
Yeah, enjoy
no snakes,
that.
we can do it. And we upset like a bunch of Yellowjackets and we absolutely got attacked.
Oh, that sucks.
I
Yeah,
remember
but very
having
protective.
I remember having to go to the little nurse there covered in bee stings.
Yeah.
As an adult, I don't fuck with them. I haven't had a sting in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. What I was noticing today as we were sitting outside a cafe, and Jay was just like pulling their body away with the bees coming in, and then like coming further and further back in their chair, and then finally they were like, I was like, oh,
yeah, that final reaction, I was like, why am I putting?
Yeah, you're like, no, we gotta go.
I'm not here for this.
Yeah, knowing your boundaries is very important.
But I've definitely had times in the past where like I've jumped, like nearly fallen out my chair, and like I've embarrassed myself about it. Like everyone around me has always been really cool about it, right? But like I felt embarrassed. I felt very ashamed. I was like, it's a fucking bee, it's fine. But I'm like, actually, no, it's not.
No, you had a very young childhood, extreme trauma in your body, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel better now knowing what happened.
Great. I'm so glad to be able to offer that.
Yeah, it was very hard for me sitting through your opening going, what the fuck happened?
Oh, sorry, right. Well, we were just talking about teasing. Sorry about that. Not your favorite, I know.
Well, like it was so exciting. It was a mixture as a poet and as a writer also. I'm like, your opening was so beautiful, and like your writing was so gorgeous, and it was really lovely to share it with me. And I really enjoyed it, but I was like, but what the fuck happened though?
Older sibling sadism.
I know, maybe I've just been conditioned. That's like, oh.
It's coming. Let me just wait. I remember when I was first developing breasts, and they remember that one. Yeah, and I got stung on.
That's not.
Oh,
I was remembering.
Oh no,
I was remembering punching you in the.
That's a different story for another day. With sibling fierceness. Okay,
sorry.
No, we used to fight like boys.
This one.
I was just developing breasts, and I was in the church parking lot. We were waiting to go somewhere with the group, and a bee stung me, and it was like all guys, and even the like youth group leader was a man, and I think our father was there. It was like all men and me, and I was just like hurled back again into like this place of like, I'm hurting and there's no one I can tell because my mother is gone. And there's being like, fuck. Yeah. And I was like, it's fine. And it hurt, like trying to hide myself. Yeah. Oh, deeply uncomfortable. Yeah. But just didn't have didn't have that sense of safety.
That's not something you can't bring that to a guy. It's like no.
I think a lot of people thankfully are able to, but
we could.
I was habituated in a particularly different way.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, no. So, what do you think about the journey and process of using somatic practices of noticing and directing my behavior to try and elicit a different outcome?
Sorry. That's not what I think about it.
It's okay if you do.
I really loved watching you interacting with the bees today.
Oh.
And I could see just how calm you were. It was really cool hearing you talk about the really intense experience that you went through to like train your body to like calm the fuck down and like using the bees' behavior. I don't know a whole ton about somatic practices, but I loved how you described it. I don't know if I have the patience to do that for myself, but I love getting some gleanings from it. So, and I really loved being able to see the outcome. Yeah. So.
Yeah, at the point where I was like taking them in my hands and taking them outside the house,
Oh
I was
my
just
God.
like, oh shit, I think I did the thing. That's amazing.
Even hearing you talk about that, I was just like, I could feel my skin literally trying to crawl off my body. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel the need to, like, violently go against them because it's not their fault. They're not mean. I don't think. And I do like the notion of them being very protective. I'm a protective person, so, like, I can enthuse with, I can get that, but I'm also like, your first comment earlier, these little fuckers. I'm like, yeah.
You're there. I'm still there.
On that stage. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to violently attack them, but I'm also like, nasty creatures.
Oh, yeah.
But you're talking about them being, like, expelled from the hive by the queen?
Yeah, so
That was really helpful.
in Montreal, they get told to leave the hive by the queen in about August, which is why we get swarmed with them August and September. Like, they're everywhere. Right now, they're really still out because, like, it's unseasonably warm, so they're sticking around. But and so the end of the summer, everyone's like, "Oh my fuck me, the Yellowjackets," and it's because all the males have been told to leave, and they're just like, "What the fuck do we do with my life?" I'm like, well, I'm not going to go into that story right now, but it's an interesting one.
Or abandoned Yellowjackets.
I know. Well, in a way, yeah.
It helps me have some more empathy.
Yeah, she got what she needed out of them. I respect that too.
I mean, yeah, really. Like, actually, I don't want y'all to hang out.
And I'm done. So she's got her own boundaries. Great. I mean, love that for a woman. Yeah. So, yeah, it was so helpful because at the time I was really, like, doing a lot of deep diving into better understanding somatic work, and I'd already been working with a somatic therapist and had read a lot about it, but to be able to, like, have a project where I really was like, let me figure out how to put these practices into play and, like, really learn to be with it, and then to be able to come out on the other side. And then, like I said, like, over the course of the winter, like, I lose some of that access and I kind of slide backwards, not too far, but enough. And then I have to, like, do a little bit of the work again to, like, bring it up. Cause again, like, that heat will rise a little bit more in the spring, but by midsummer, I'm like, oh no, we're good.
Well, now you can just look at your Yellowjacket friend.
Yeah. So, so I had a tattoo. If y'all can see, this is a Yellowjacket. And what I did was, my sweetie Kay is a tattoo artist, KAE.9.fingers, here in Montreal. And they created this single line Yellowjacket for me. And I wanted a single line because I wanted to showcase that our nervous system is all connected, whether it's our heart, our brains, our body, like, all of these things are together connected. And I have walked this path with Yellowjackets. Like I said, not just Yellowjackets, but these two. I've been swarmed multiple times. I had this, original kind of big trauma as a small child. And I've had several other stings. But I wanted this single line to kind of denote the path that we take is not linear, that it's a fucking process. And then I'll link in the notes here, but Kay and my sweetie Rainfire held me through a ritual I created where I read the story to them. Neither of them had heard the story before. Kay had already created the image, and Rainfire and I had planned how they were going to hold me, energetically through the process. And then I read them the story so that they were with me through the ritual. And then I bound myself because I felt like my nervous system had been bound because of this trauma. And then throughout the course of the tattooing, which is literally a needle stinging you.
I'm aware of this. Hilarious.
Yeah, well, this is very purposeful, right?
Yeah,
like intentions of rituals. I love creating rituals. Through this needle stinging me, I was slowly, like, undoing this bondage, and talking with them, about what was going on, and just being in my body and my heart. And I'll link in here that there's a post I have where I have some videos of that ritual. But yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, well, I think that I really honor that we, when we have the, capacity and capability, when we have the capacity, we have the capabilities to engage with our stories differently. And that's not to say that we just decide. Sometimes you just do. But if you're bringing in your body, it usually takes a lot fucking more work than that. And if you've got habituation on top of it, like, it's even more work. So, but when we can build up those practices, and I say practice in a, like, the regularity sense of the word, of these exercises, then there's really so much that we can do with our nervous systems and our body, and our cognitive understandings that I think we underestimate ourselves a lot. So this is just one of my somatic stories of trauma. Most of my writing is like this, where I'm telling the stories of my traumas, and the ways in which I have engaged with them over the years and learned to restory them and reconnect with them in ways that feel empowering, for me to show up more fully. So, yeah. Anything you want to say to the Yellowjackets in the future?
Fuck off.
Fuck off. Yeah, well, that's valid too.
I'm not there yet.
Okay, no problem. Oh, if you're interested in starting with just like knowledge,
yeah,
like, I really like that.
that'd be helpful.
Okay, so I recommend Ologies is a lovely podcast, and she's got one of her episodes is all about, I think maybe it's hornets, but it's stinging insects. And I think it's specific to hornets. There's an ology that is, I don't remember the word, but there's, like, I think thousands, at least hundreds of types of hornets in the world, and they're fucking intense. Like, they are amazing creatures. It's a really interesting episode. So steel yourself, maybe, but also, like, if knowledge helps you better understand. For me, what helped me understand better was indigenous writings talking about the ways in which we have been taught to see wilderness as othered, and that colonization, and how we can break that down by seeing wilderness as part of and us as part of, which I think, like, my practices in lineages of Buddhism kind of help with that. Like, we are the universe is within us. And that combination, I think, really is what brought me to the compassion piece of, like, okay, but why do more come when I'm upset? I'm physically not doing anything different, but my body is, and suddenly more of them are coming. Like, they smell that, they sense that something is happening there. Can I get curious about it? And can I create a story that supports the work I'm trying to do? Because it doesn't matter what story I use. I could tell myself that, like, oh, when I'm angry, they get angry, and that's why they come. Like, I could have told myself that story, but I wanted to forefront compassion and knowing, because I've learned, because of social justice in my country, in the United States, that othering does not get us to the world we want to be in. So let me not other these beings.
Yeah, I loved your story that you gave about that. Especially as we were watching one of the bees that was with us fell into my drink, and, like, I was able to empathize so much more after watching that and then hearing you talk about it. I was like, oh, poor bee.
I know. I was trying to find something to get it out with, and then I had a hairband, and it, like, clung to it, and it was like, I'm not gonna make it. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, it was so slow. So,
it was sad to watch.
I know that one didn't make it, but so. And also, like, I put out traps for them and kill them. Like,
I know. Like,
it's complex,
you know. I'm also like, but my home though.
I'm saying tranquility. Like, mostly I'm okay with them, and also, like, ooh, August is fucking intense here. Let me tell you. So,
not this video then.
Well, and I chose to use the reality story that they are ejected from their hive. I chose to use that to my advantage. Like, there's a little bit of, like, fuck the patriarchy in my in my bee traps. Like, I'm like, oh, I got some honey for you bitches. So there is complexity there. I can hold all of these things. Like, I can honor and love them, and also be like, absolutely fucking not. I have boundaries. So find your own balance, you know.
Boundaries with the men in your life
Please. Necessary.
that are
Yes.
flying insects.
That are flying insects, especially. So many flying insects. Anyway, thank you for being willing to share this experience of learning about your own trauma publicly. That's kind of a fucking awesome deal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks y'all for being here with us. Jay is staying with me for the next like week and a half. And I think we're going to do a couple of videos because they are in the San Francisco Bay Area. We don't get to see each other a lot. And being two trans AFABs, like there's so much that we relate to and also totally differently in a lot of ways. And we think that that might be kind of interesting to showcase and share. So more to come in the next week or so. If you want to slide into my DMs and like tell us what you're curious to know about two trans siblings, like I'm happy to field those questions. And
I'm curious to see what type of questions.
Yeah, tell us your questions. I would love to know, like, because I have my guesses, like, oh, what would you think, you know, that you would want to know about two trans siblings. There's so many things that I find really fascinating about our similarities and differences, but I'd love to hear your questions. So, yeah. Okay. Thanks, y'all. Bye.